Excerpt from Janine's journey, read by the author. The tea shop had changed hands since she had last visited it. It was smarter. Pale, slightly pink pure linen cloths clothed the little round tables, and the wooden chairs, by way of contrast, had padded Draylon seats in a slightly darker shade of pink. The menu boasted a selection of exquisite Austrian gateau, crab salad, and other exotics. Janine ordered a pot of tea, scones, jam, and cream. Looking around, she realized the shop had been altered extensively. Where it had previously been one room, with a till by the door to pay as you went out, now a small part had been partitioned off and turned into a gift shop. Janine, who always enjoyed looking at knickknacks, in the hope of finding something different, decided to have a look around when she had finished eating. The scones arrived warm and well risen, and Janine sat happy and relaxed as she put generous amounts of butter on her scone and watched it melt, after which she topped it with lashings of jam, which she was delighted to find contained whole strawberries, then added generous amounts of cream. She finished her second cup of tea and dabbed at her mouth with a napkin. Feeling better, she rose and went to the gift shop to look at the knickknacks. She was not disappointed. Expensive handmade chocolates, bearing the name of a famous London confectionery house, were being jostled for prominence by equally expensive handmade porcelain flowers. Janine picked one up. It was a pale pink rose with a deeper pink centre and green leaves. When she turned it over, she saw it was a brooch. She decided to buy it for her aunt. Although expensive, Janine could afford it. She handed the brooch to the cashier behind the counter, along with the waitress's bill and some money. As she waited for the brooch to be wrapped, she looked obliquely around the corner to see what else was on offer. She could just make out what could only be local pottery. Not her type of thing at all. She found it all too heavy. Wondering if they had anything else, she took a couple of steps to the left to get a better view, and immediately drew back. Hanging from hooks, just beyond the heavy pottery, were corn dollies. Janine stood, white and trembling, then, unable to control herself any longer, she grabbed her change none too gently from the assistant's hand, scooped up her purchases, and dashed out of the shop. Fighting for breath, her heart thumping, she raced the few yards to the bench by the village pond and threw herself onto the seat. Sitting, face in hands, shivering, although it was a hot day, she fought to keep her panic at bay. Corn dollies. They always reminded her of black magic. She didn't know why. She had never read a book on black magic. She had no reason to associate them with the art, nor did she know, in fact, if there was any connection. But the sight of them still sent that message to her mind. The adrenaline started to pump, and she took off with the speed of a kestrel after its prey. Except she felt that she was being chased, that she was the prey. She sat on the bench waiting for her breathing to slow. The day certainly wasn't going the way Janine had hoped it would. In fact, Janine thought, the whole summer holiday wasn't. First the funny vision or feeling or whatever it was this morning, and now this. And she hadn't even been here 24 hours. But, to a higher power looking on, Janine's summer was going perfectly to plan. To take her mind off everything, she walked the few yards to the post office, bought a fashion magazine, and headed back to the bench. She looked through the pages, waiting for the panic to subside. Feeling slightly better, she closed her eyes for a few minutes. This she said to herself, is not the first time. This has got to stop. She had seen corn dollies at a fair she had gone to years ago with her parents, and threw a tantrum. She was only 5 at the time, so no one had paid any attention to it. It had happened only one other time before, when she had gone to a craft fair. They were on a stall with hand-woven baskets. She had taken one look at them and fled. She had been 14 then, and fortunately had been on her own. What on earth was she going to do? She had seen a program on the television only a couple of weeks ago about people who had strange and unexplained phobias. The general consensus of opinion was that one must face one's fear. But how was she going to do that if she didn't know why she felt this way? Maybe, she thought, maybe if she knew what they represented, she might get to the bottom of it. But how? She would have to go to the library in Chiverton. That was the nearest place for internet access. She supposed she could try the library here, but it was very small. She didn't hold out much hope, and she could hardly go in there and ask for a book on witchcraft. Witchcraft? Where had that idea come from? What had witchcraft got to do with it, if anything? The panic started to rise again. Get a grip, for heaven's sake, she told herself. Carry on at this rate, and Aunt Dee will have you committed. Janine found the library and went inside. The librarian looked at Janine over the top of her spectacles. She was in her 60s at least, Janine thought. Not that that mattered. Short and plump, she had short hair cut in a wavy style, which flattered her once pretty face. Several rings containing large diamonds adorned her chubby fingers. "Hello, you're new, aren't you?" The woman's voice was clipped and reminded Janine of the Queen. Yes," said Janine. "Like to join?" No, thank you. I'm here just for the holidays." "Can't take a book out without a ticket," said the librarian. "Oh, that's all right. I just want to look something up." "And what subject is that? I can help you look." Janine wished she hadn't offered, and thought frantically for something to say. "Oh, crafts," replied Janine. "You know, making things out of straw." "Ah," said the librarian. "I think we may have something." She went to the craft section and pulled a book from the top shelf. "You might find something in here," she said, handing it to Janine. "There's a table in the corner if you want to sit down and have a look through." "Thank you," said Janine, glad to get away. She looked at the contents: raffia mats, baskets, and corn dollies, page 36. Janine shivered and broke out in a cold sweat. She took a deep breath. "Turn to the page," she said to herself. "Face the fear. Come on, you know you can do it." As she turned the pages over, she noticed her hands were trembling. "It is only a picture, it's only a picture," she kept telling herself. The book wasn't much help. It said that corn dollies were used in ancient times for fertility rites, to ensure that there was a rich harvest and many newborn cattle. There was nothing about black magic, nothing sinister, only that the Druids were thought to have used them. The Druids? What was scary about that? As she returned the book to the shelf, another book, 2 shelves below, tumbled to the floor, its pages opening as it fell. It landed text side down, pages splayed like someone doing the splits. The back and front covers had a swirling pattern in deep royal blue, green and gold. As Janine picked it up to return it to the shelf, a voice in her head said, "Read it!" Janine jumped. She looked up. The librarian was bending over a crate of books, her large rear end encased in a white, pink and green floral skirt, the only part of her anatomy in view. Was the place haunted? Janine made to return the book to the shelf, but instead found that she was being propelled back towards the table she had just sat at, as if someone had determinedly taken her elbow. White-faced and afraid, she turned the book over. It contained a prayer, a protection prayer by St. Patrick. She read it silently. As the words went through her mind, she felt a sensation as if someone was standing over her shoulder. She looked behind her. No one was there. The librarian was still bending over the crate of books. She finished the prayer, closed the book, and was about to make another attempt to return it to the shelf when the voice entered her head again. "Write it down!" Janine broke out in a sweat. She made a futile attempt to stand up. It felt as if someone had their hands on her shoulders, pushing her down. She took a tissue from her pocket and wiped her face. The librarian stood up, rubbed her back, and turned round. "Are you all right?" she asked Janine. "Yes, thanks," replied Janine in a croaky voice, "just a bit hot." "You look like you've seen a ghost," said the librarian. Janine blanched. "It's probably just the heat." "I'll get you a glass of water." Thanks," stammered Janine, feeling very self-conscious. "That's okay." She smiled and walked away. Janine drank the water. It was cold and refreshing. She took out her pen and notepad and started to write. For more information on Janine's journey and my other books, please visit www.starlightdevi-books.co.uk. Thank you.